quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It's where we all began. Welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters. Howdy folks, and welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters, where we have a special, just exclusively for you treat. It is a private typewriter, if you will. And that, of course, is the Voss Privat. And that's what we are looking at here in front of you. The Voss Privat. I'll just have you take a look at this gorgeous two-tone typewriter, cream and light brown, ultra-portable typewriter made in 1960 by Voss in Germany. And it lived its life in Germany until 2020 I should say, when we imported it from Germany. And it really is a special machine, just gorgeous good looks. We'll give you a little bit of an overview of its history, and as we zoom out a little bit, we'll also show you in just a moment some of its competitors. So right behind it we have the Princess 300, another Western Germany marvelous typewriter, and we'll swing across to the right and we'll look at the Groma Kolibri, the appropriately black from the evil Eastern Germany.
It looks like it's squished.
The wrong side of the Iron Curtain, and it does look like it's squished because it is squished. This is actually a very thin typewriter, an ultra portable, perhaps one of the thinnest ever made. And you can decide if you want to be part of the light and the Voss Privat, or you prefer the dark side. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a special unscheduled treat, and that is a special additional typewriter we hadn't even intended to review, and Katie's going to point it out over here.
It's a typewriter.
It's a typewriter. We'll get it out of the glare. What kind of typewriter is it, Katie?
It's the American Girl doll typewriter.
It's right. It's Kit's American Girl doll typewriter. We're going to have a little hard time doing a typing test with that one, but we will do our best. And before we do that, let's zoom out and zoom on back to what we were doing, which was the Voss Privat. Okay, so just getting started here officially, if you will. Let's take a look at the keyboard, because that's one of the most distinguishing features of this particular example. And what kind of keyboard do we have here, Kevin?
A Quartz Z.
Quartz Z. So what does that mean for those who are new to typewriters?
It means the Y and the Z are switched, and it's from Germany, and it has a oh my goodness face from Kevin McAllister, the Omega smiley, and a weird A.
Alright, the oh my goodness face from Kevin McAllister. That's a new one for me. Well, let's zoom in on that and we can see what he's talking about here. So that's an O with an umlaut over it, a U with an umlaut, an A with an umlaut, and then we have this sort of B looking key. That's an SET, or a double S. I think that's being less and less commonly used in most of Germany now. They just write the double S's. But this is from 1960, so we still had very traditional Germans and very traditional German keyboards. When you have a keyboard like this, you don't really give up anything. The apostrophe, for example, is down here. Your exclamation point is down here. Your question mark is here. You have a semicolon over the number 1, and that's a little bit weird. But again, very easy to adapt to. You don't have a dollar sign, so you would need to maybe use this legal marking they have over here. It's an S. I don't know the official name for that.
Looks like a shuriken.
Looks like a shuriken, okay. So, in any case, this Voss typewriter, it really just exudes quality. It is a metal construction, gorgeous machine. We'll go over some of the controls as we always do, but I just wanted to kind of give you an overview really quickly of how it looks. It just is, blows me away. All right, so on this side we have our carriage return lever, and that's not something that exciting except for the fact that it will stow down, and I'll just try to do this. There's a carriage locking mechanism on the side here that just comes up and down, so we'll try to put that into the carriage lock position because I want to show you. There we go. We've locked it. This carriage return arm stows all the way down in this position. It's kind of a miracle. You've only got a little teeny tiny scrape on this one from the 50, 60 years now that it's been in existence. So this comes up very, very firmly, and you can return the carriage in that way. And of course you'd need to release the carriage lock. On the left hand side you also have your line selection. So you've got 1, 2, and 3, and it's a little bit hard to see, but I'm going to show it to you on here. There's some lines over here. We'll zoom in. And you can see this is your line selection. So 1, 2, and 3, and you just move this lever to change your line spacing. Okay? And then we have our a nice little knob here, and just the machining on this typewriter is really remarkable. It's just really pretty balls, chromed, but this releases the tension, or excuse me, releases the ratcheting function, not the tension, so you can freewheel without having to worry about where your position will be. Spinning on around, we have our margins, which are set by sliding along this case. Let's get out a little bit so we can see that. Our margin sliders are here. You just press and slide. It's a little hard to do left-handed, one-handed, but you press and slide those, just like many others. And then we have our carriage release lever over here, which is more of kind of an interesting fin, if you will. So kind of a fin, remarkable one. And then we have a ball, again, a nice machine work to release the tension on our paper levels. We have a paper bale. This machine has a metal wheels instead of using rubber, and boy, that has really paid off. I'm sure it was a quality issue when they first made it. They didn't think about using rubber, but these will never wear out. These will never go flat, and it is fantastic to see that. You've got relatively small carriage return, platen knob here, which I guess is appropriate for relatively small platen, but those are in good shape as well. And we'll continue rounding out a discussion of this machine before we get into the conversation about the other machines here in just 1 second. We'll raise up the lid here. A little awkward to do. Here we go. Take a look at our Voss lid. Now we've replaced the crumbling foam. That was about the only thing that really needed much work on this machine. There was foam lining in here and it had crumbled. This lid cover, ribbon cover, is held in place with some very robust metalwork. Again, there's some prongs in here that our bayonet clips go into. And again, many times you'd have rubber here, but this one doesn't have any. It never did. And even so, the paintwork and everything is just in really great shape. There's a lot of paint on this machine. It's very thick, you can tell. Really well made. So let's continue on over here. This is a German machine, as we have said. So it has the DIN 2103 spools and spindles, so they're just a little bit wider than the standard American, but they're still readily available, easy to get to. This is where your ribbon color selector knob is located. So you've got blue, white, and red. White is for the stencil position. Another nice pretty ball. Again, the machining work, really nice. Your ribbon reverse mechanism is here. You have these little arms. Now these machines do not use grommets. They just rely on spring tension to reverse. So as you're typing along, the ribbon is spooling in one direction. When it gets taut, it pushes that way and it will reverse and go in the reverse direction. Some uncommon positioning. This up arrow, what do you figure that up arrow is, Kevin?
I don't know.
Well, we stumped the chump with Kevin. What that actually is that is a margin release. So when you hit your margin, you just press in, and if you push really hard, I notice that it raises the whole carriage, but I know you just have to push in a little bit to release the margin, and you can continue typing. It's a little bit, bless you, just a little bit of a stranger, less common way of doing the margin release. And then of course your backspace is over here on the right, and your shift and shift lock is denotated by a downward key. Now Kevin wants me to come over here and look at the Colibri as a comparison. So what's interesting about this particular version of the Groma Kolibri is it has a letter C, and Kevin is very excited to let you know that this letter C instead of a letter K Colibri, the only one I've ever seen, has a standard, what kind of keyboard, Kevin?
It has a QWERTY, and it has that fraction thing and the @ symbol, not like the QWERTY.
That's right. So the QWERTY keyboard is different than the QWERTY keyboard. But one thing I do notice it's a tiny bit quirky on this QWERTY layout is that the number 1 key, instead of having an exclamation mark above it, has an equal sign above it. I've never actually seen that. And this machine also has dead keys. So you have your accent mark dead keys. So it's interesting. I really don't know the history of this machine. We got it from Canada, but it doesn't have a French layout. It does have a $sign. It is a QWERTY machine, and it's in our permanent collection, I guess. It needs a little bit of work, the carriage return, and it's missing one platen on the left, but it's a great comparison, and I thought it was a neat machine because it is so distinctively unique. But now back to our Voss Privat. For those who know Voss, most of them know him for the larger Voss models. And now is as good a time as any to discuss a little bit about the history of these machines. We'll get this machine back into its position.
Alright, students, time for history class.
Alright, yeah, time for history class, because I really enjoy the history of these machines. It's great learning about them and bringing them to you guys as well. So let's try to do that. There we go.
That's better.
So Voss was in business for a relatively short period of time. And given the history of this particular machine, this was started in about 1959 and ran from, let's call it 1960 to 1965. It was originally a design, well, let's go all the way back. We can go all the way back to 1933 when the Swiss Patria machine was created, which later then evolved into the Piccola. It ran as in 1944. The Patria was redesigned. It was an ultra-portable. It evolved into the Piccola. In 1944, it was redesigned, as I mentioned, and eventually it became the Oliver Courier in 1954 to 59. And there is some thought that even earlier than they were being officially made by the Voss company, they were being relabeled, bought and imported, probably in the late 59 time frame, from Oliver and labeled as Vosses. This is a 1960 model based on the serial number. The serial number on this particular machine is located in the little badge right down here.
I'm going to see if I can pick that up.
Probably a little hard and probably a little upside down, but give it a shot, Kevin. Okay. Yeah, sorry about making you motion sick, guys, but we're doing our best with what we have given to us. And in any case, it's a mid-1960s. So it started out as a Swiss typewriter, evolved into a British one, and then was taken back by the Germans and made. Now, the interesting thing about this is Voss had moved from more of its larger size typewriters into this market, and for whatever reason, they went bankrupt about 5 years later. They went out of the business. So I don't know why that would be, because this is such a wonderful machine, but it is kind of an interesting note to know that making this machine killed the company, or at least the company died while they were making this machine. And that may have been, in fact, due to the fact that you had, again, the Colibri competing as well, which is a thinner machine, about the same weight though, believe it or not, and you had the Keller and Knoppich Princess 300, another machine against which the poor Voss Privat had to compete. So we'll get ready for a typing test and give you our thoughts on how this machine performs. Okay, one of the only flaws on this machine is this guide has faded and turned to yellow over time. But it's a small price to pay and they're really hard to fix. Let's go ahead and try our namesake typing action. We got our lazy dog right next to us actually, and see if she'll come over and help us out. Quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. It's where we all belong. See lazy dog typewriters on Etsy, YouTube, and Facebook. Alright, I went a little bit longer than I normally do just because
Starlight.
the lazy dog is here. I went a little bit longer on that typing example just to, I guess really just enjoy it, honestly, because it is just a very smooth, solid typing action. It's just, I don't know, it's like the old Lexus doors closing. It's just a thunk sound, and it has that feel. It's firm, but not at all sluggish, and it has a very nice pica, 10 character per inch typeface. And again, we're always looking for a better typist like our pal Typewriter Minutes to come over and really put these machines to use. But even poor typists like me can really enjoy a machine of this quality. And I hope that you have the opportunity in your own lives to come across a machine this beautiful and also this well made. So one other thing we want to do before we do that is take a look at our cases which accompanying this typewriter. So we'll pause for a second and take a look at the case. Okay, so here we have a look at the exterior of this case. It's a very nice leatherette, kind of a taupe color, but what really gets you excited is the interior of this case. It's just gorgeous. This sort of Scottish tartan plaid we've got going on. And I'll zoom up so you can see that. I think it might just be one of the prettiest cases I've ever seen. We'll just make a qualification, say the prettiest soft case I've ever seen. The Princess has a pretty nice case, and we can take a look at that too here. It has an attached and integrated bottom half, which you just leave the machine on, right? So that's kind of nifty. A portable table, if you will. And its case is very pretty too, in this pretty nice blue. Nice handle. But the interior being just a plain blue, and there's a little bit of a pattern texture here, which is pretty good. But it cannot hold a candle to the Voss Privat. And this, I'm sad to say, very dusty Colibri. Right now I can see that the rays of the sun are shining down on it. It's embarrassingly dirty, but it's been sitting on display for a while. It has a pretty nice case too, a leather case, all leather. And I think it actually is genuine leather and not leatherette. That's pretty nice too. But if I had to pick one of my favorite all-time cases, I think this Voss Privat would take the cake for the best case. Okay, finishing up our just general overview of the Voss Privat. Not surprisingly, we are going to love this machine. The pros are very obvious. Just an absolute gorgeous design, wonderful machine and case. Very solid construction. I didn't quite show it to you, but if you look underneath here, you have a very, zoom out, you have a very solid metal frame. It's very compact, and then the outer casing of it here, right? But it almost looks like a tank. I mean, it is a very heavy for what it is. I mean, for as big as it is, it's not a heavy machine, but the machining and the casting of this is just particularly impressive. The feet on this machine are still soft and rubbery, even after 60 years, and I've seen so many that are not. It's just, I don't know what they did to survive, but it is really a really nice machine. Very well constructed. Another pro is it's rare and highly collectible. That may not be great if you don't have one and can't find one, but I guess once you got it, you feel pretty happy to have one. Superb, solid typing touch. It just types really well. It's heavier than a torpedo, not quite as snappy as a torpedo, but it's reminiscent of a torpedo, if we'll put it that way. And again, I would love to have someone with better typing talent type on it as well, so they could tell you. Cons. Well, the only con I could come up with really right now is that it is a Quart Z layout. Okay, so that's sort of, it is what it is, but if you don't like having a Quart Z typing action, and some people are that way, they just can't adapt, then that's definitely a con. One quirk, I don't know if it's a con per se of this machine, is that the letter I, I'll raise up here, there we go, it will sometimes stick, and it's not sticking necessarily because it's dirty, because I guarantee you we've cleaned this machine, but the linkage was replaced at some point by another typewriter repairman, and it works just fine, but it's a smaller grade piano wire linkage that they fabricated because the original one must have broken, and so that sometimes rubs the key next to it and it can get stuck. There we go, and you just ignore it or it bounces back. So I always like to point those out. Those are just little quirks that happen to typewriters. That's 60 years old. They get a few quirks. It's very easy to deal with, but that might be one small thing. And again, as anyone who uses a typewriter knows, every machine has some kind of little quirk like that. Other than that, this is one of my all-time favorite machines. We imported this from Germany, as I said. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. There's one other machine that might be slightly more gorgeous, and that is a blue variant that I tried to buy but could not get off of our sources in Germany. But we have this cream one, which is a very close second best to the blue one. It was kind of a metallic blue and cream color. It was gorgeous if you've ever seen one of those. That's all I would say would top it. We thank you so much for taking a tour, a public tour of our private typewriter. Thanks so much.
Please like, subscribe, and share.
It's your private typewriter, typing for money, types whatever you want it to. It's your private typewriter, typing for funny, do what you want it to do.